Every day, something dramatic happens in the Caribbean that affects our lives. We'll give you the details. We'll give you the facts on Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick. Here's Eddie Frederick.
So glad you can join us. St. Kitts and Nevis takes steps to apply new changes to its Citizenship by Investment program. This story takes the lead in today's edition of Caribbean Perspective for Tuesday, 1st August 2023, as 185 years of emancipation observed. Details after this important message.
The hurricane season is now upon us, so we as Caribbean people need to remember to think safety and be prepared. Avoid venturing outside during a storm or hurricane, especially if there are strong winds. Rooftops and other debris are often blown about and can cause great damage.
Welcome back. New changes have been applied to the Citizenship by Investment program of St. Kitts and Nevis to ensure what officials say would boost international investor confidence and bolster St. Kitts and Nevis' reputation globally. SKN Newsline's Glenn Bart has more.
According to information released from the Citizenship by Investment Unit, the changes include the introduction of a new investment option called the Sustainable Island State Contribution, or SISC, and would be contributions to St. Kitts and Nevis in the following 7 areas. 1. Increasing local food production. 2. Transitioning to green energy. 3. Diversifying the economy. 4. Attracting and supporting sustainable industries. 5. Evolving the creative economy. 6. Recovering from the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic. And 7. Expanding social protection and safety nets to protect the most vulnerable. Mr. Michael Martin, head of the St. Kitts and Nevis Citizenship by Investment Unit, said in a release, quote, "In this ever-changing and unpredictable world, it is imperative that the government of St. Kitts and Nevis and its Citizenship by Investment program continue to adapt to the needs of our people and to attract the right kind of international investment necessary to uplift our country. While we have always been the benchmark of the global investor immigration industry, we understand that in order to remain as one of the most sought-after economic citizenship programs in the world, we need to continue to evolve and forge a path for ourselves that is sustainable in the long term," end quote. Clearly, the CIU and the government are taking preemptive steps to avoid adverse decisions by countries against St. Kitts and Nevis. Glenn Bart reporting for SKN Newsline.
Socio-political commentator Dwight Astafan is calling on current Prime Minister Dr. Terence Drew to fix the non-performing situation with several Chinese developers. Glenn Bart again of SKN Newsline reports.
Astafan said the Chinese developers seem to have substantial power, which they have wielded, yet some have substantially large and unfinished projects, all approved under the Citizenship by Investment program. According to Astafan, blame has to be laid at the feet of 2 former prime ministers, namely Dr. Denzel Douglas and Dr. Timothy Harris, whom he said allowed the conditions to exist.
You see, part and parcel of the problem also here is that we have opened the door to certain Chinese and other developers who have sold and have been allowed by the authorities to sell our citizenship at prices below the legal thresholds, allowed to do so by the authorities and to operate without limits and deadlines. They have scarred and defaced our landscape with unfinished projects and they seem to wield a heck of a lot of influence in high circles. Even now, look at what happened at the swearing-in ceremony. People from Galaxy sat in front of the Taiwanese. Look at what happened in the UN last September. People from Galaxy sitting in the General Assembly with the St. Kitts and Nevis delegation. How come they're wielding so much influence? How come they wielded so much influence before? How come it's continuing? Clearly, they have support somewhere up high, but that support is not in the best interest of the people of this country. And we are feeling it now. And it will only get worse if we don't sort it out. We know that at least one of these Chinese groups is close to both former prime ministers. Both of them and the sycophants and yes men around them caused this crisis and left it now for the present prime minister and his team to solve. And I frankly and respectfully do not think that either of the former prime ministers, Douglas or Harris, can be part of the solution because they were the major causes of the problem. Respectfully, nothing personal.
Major projects under the CBI program have run into investor issues, some having nothing to do with Chinese investment, as Stefan is calling for speedy government action to recover the situation in the best interest of citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis. Glenn Barrett reporting for SKN Newsline.
In other news, Paula Llewellyn, the Director of Public Prosecutions in Jamaica, has finally addressed the recent issue of her 10-year extension by the Jamaican government, which has been a topic of discussion for several days. Despite facing some criticism, Paula Llewellyn is not avoiding public engagement. More in the CVM Live report.
The Director of Public Prosecution, Paula Llewellyn, is not shying away from the public, even as scathing criticisms are being swirled regarding the government of Jamaica's decision to extend her tenure. Speaking at the Justice of the Peace Association General Meeting on Wednesday, she says, in essence, much is expected to whom much is given.
Such is public life at the highest level, and those of us who join it to give service at the highest level recognize that the slings and arrows will always be there waiting for you. But at the end of the day, when you go through the fire, you must come through the fire like finely tempered steel.
Describing the myriad of discussions and debates surrounding the matter as merely static in the atmosphere, she teases the media for perching at the edge of their seats, waiting for her to do a deep dive into the issue.
Although I see members of the media here, and I'm getting the telepathic thoughts from them, Miss Llewellyn, will you go a little bit further down the wicket and expose your stance? I am not going to do so. We're going to just leave it at static.
The DPP's witty acknowledgement of the issue amidst mounting concerns in different spaces is being met with some criticism from attorney-at-law Michael Williams.
I think to characterize a serious discussion on a fundamental issue as static is quite flippant. That kind of response is not something that I would have expected. I agree with her sentiment that when you're at the highest in public servant, that you must be prepared for scrutiny. She didn't use that word though. She said arrows. But certainly the issue of a fundamental change to a basic law and discussion surrounding same should never be characterized as static.
The DPP was already granted a 3-year extension in July 2020, which was slated to end in September 2023. Natalia Clark, CVM Live.
You're listening to Caribbean Perspective with Eddie Frederick.
Police High Command has recently issued a statement regarding the events surrounding the interdicted chairman of the Police Federation, Corporal Rowan James. The High Command acknowledges its commitment to preserving the right to free speech for all its members, but emphasizes the importance of exercising these freedoms in accordance with established rules, regulations, and force orders.
The release notes the remarks by Corporal James at a funeral became the subject of an internal investigation by the Inspectorate Professional Standards Oversight Bureau, IPROB. Preliminary findings from the inquiry suggest that his statements were found to contravene JCF rules, regulations, and the force orders, and were viewed as disrespectful, unprofessional, unfitting of his office and rank, thereby potentially bringing the JCF into disrepute. Consequently, Corporal James has been served with multiple charges and is slated to appear before a court of inquiry.
In our HGP regional roundup with Renata Burnett, U.S. orders its citizens out of Haiti. Dominican opposition chimes in on UK's decision to impose visa restrictions on Dominicans. and reparations for slavery continues to be on the agenda of the region as 185 years of emancipation observed.
The U.S. State Department on Thursday ordered non-emergency government personnel and family members to leave Haiti as soon as possible, citing kidnapping crime, civil unrest, and poor health care infrastructure. The State Department said U.S. citizens not working for the government should also leave Haiti as soon as possible by commercial or other privately available transportation options. Kidnapping is widespread and victims regularly include U.S. citizens. Kidnappers may use sophisticated planning or take advantage of unplanned opportunities, and even convoys have been attacked, the State Department said in a travel advisory. Haiti has struggled to contain violence and chaos as heavily armed gangs drive a humanitarian crisis that has displaced tens of thousands amid frequent kidnappings for ransom, gang rapes, tortures, and murders. Opposition leader Jessime Paul Victor said the United Kingdom's decision to remove visa-free travel privileges for Dominican passport holders is frightening and disappointing, and clearly shows how the government mismanaged the Citizenship by Investment (CBI) program. In her budget response on Thursday, Paul Victor highlighted sections of Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerritt's national address following the UK's decision, saying the government's plans to conduct a review of the CBI is an admission that the UK's concerns were justified. Paul Victor called on the Prime Minister to live up to his promises of accountability and remove the shroud of secrecy from the CBI so citizens can see how much money was earned from the program. She added the opposition was not surprised by the crackdown on Dominica's CBI program, as the UK, US, and European Union have been taking steps for years to restrict golden passport programs. Representatives from various African and Caribbean entities joined forces at a historic event this week in the capital of Barbados, Bridgetown, to demand reparations for slavery and its legacy in today's society. The University of the West Indies, the Economic, Social, and Cultural Council of the African Union, Barbados Government, Grant-Making Network Open Society Foundations, and the Caribbean Pan-African Network teamed up to call for reparations for historical crimes. The meeting in Bridgetown from Monday to Thursday included strategy sessions and plenaries and marked the beginning of an intercontinental campaign, the UE said in a statement describing it as groundbreaking. I'm Renata Burnett.
Hubbard is once again innovating the way you shop with its new online store, providing 24-hour shopping convenience. You can shop now for appliances, hardware, houseware, building material, and more. Free delivery island-wide. Start shopping now at hubbardshardware.gd. Safe, convenient, reliable.
I am Eddie Frederick. This has been Caribbean Perspective, a whole new approach to highlighting developments in the Caribbean. In the meantime, please continue to log on to CaribbeanPerspective.com for more daily news and more.